You are listening to Dog Decks Radio, the nation's animal station.
Dale recently had the great pleasure of talking to Claudio Sillero via Zoom. Claudio spoke on behalf of the Born Free Foundation about the little-known and endangered Ethiopian wolf. Did you know that this beautiful animal is rarer than the panda? Claudio Sillero is Chief Scientist of the Born Free Foundation and has worked with them for 25 years. He is based at the University of Oxford Wildlife Conservation Research Unit. His main interests are the ecology and conservation of wild carnivores and the relationships between wildlife and rural communities. After decades working on Ethiopian wolves, a solitary forager living on large family packs in the highlands of Ethiopia, he remains fascinated by the adaptability of canid society and how wolves, wild dogs and foxes continue to thrive in many diverse habitats across the globe. Claudio works on several rare or threatened carnivore species spanning 4 continents. He is the chair of the IUCN Canid Specialist Group.
Nice to be talking to you today. And I think in order to have an understanding of how this little-known wild wolf that occurs in Africa lives, it will help to take a view of the map of Africa. And if you think of Ethiopia as being the roof of Africa, being the Tibet of Africa, if you wish, with over 90% of the land above 4,000 meters found in the country, and then you position yourself in these big open alpine meadows, that's where the Ethiopian wolf reigns supreme. It's an extremely rare animal and is very restricted in distribution. It is an Ethiopian endemic, and by endemic we mean a species that is found nowhere else. And it's also a specialist. It will only live in these fairly seemingly barren alpine meadows. But when you look closer, you find that actually these meadows are teeming with life. And this life is sparse in the shape of small rodents that tend to live on the ground. Being so cold at night, the best strategy to survive this harsh weather is living underground. And having such a high density of rodents there enables species such as the Ethiopian wolf, but also many raptors and other predators to thrive in the highlands. So, to give you an understanding how rare and little known these animals were, when I was offered the opportunity to go and study them in the mid-'80s, I had to rush for my Mammals Guide of Africa to know what we were talking about. And I was originally charged with the responsibility of learning as much as we could about these animals and put in place conservation initiatives to protect them. Little did I know that 32 years later, I'm still working with the wolves, and I guess I'm their ambassador, trying to get people to know a little bit more about them. The first thing that strikes you is that they have these beautiful red coats with white markings in the chest and face and a striking black tail. And that makes them very conspicuous. So you are out and about, and it's very easy to spot them up if they don't spot you first and start emitting alarm calls. So, although very rare, about 500 of them found across 6 mountain enclaves in Ethiopia. Once you are in the right place, they're very easy to see and they're very easy to watch. And by watching them, either on foot or on horseback, you're able to disentangle the specialization to live in these areas with the incredible social lives they lead. Because if you think in terms of canids, and canids are the members of the family of wolves, dogs, and foxes, which we are all very familiar with. Many of them particularly the wolves, tend to be social. They live in large groups and they look after the pups jointly. Some of them even hunt together. But in the case of the wolves, because they rely on these small prey items found in the Afro-Alpine, they would seem to be better off by living by themselves, because you go out hunting and you don't want to have your mates around you disrupting your prey. So you're better off hunting by yourself. But yet they live in large groups. The largest pack we ever recorded had 18 adults, and they can have as many as 6 or 7 pups in a given year. So fairly large family groups, which beg the question of why animals that are quite happily hunting solitarily, they still live in family groups. And that was the main theme of my doctoral studies at the time. And it transpires that by living in groups, you can protect a larger home range or territory and secure food all year round. And in order to do that, you need to keep your neighbors at bay. It's okay to have them there, but not too close. So larger groups are more likely to see out smaller groups. And in doing that, you secure and protect your large territory. And there will be enough food to go around all year round and allowed for any seasonal variations. So that's the strength in numbers. And those family groups also will be very good at raising the pups together. So you'll have these most amazing deletions by most members of the family, bringing food to the pups when they're little, but also to babysit. And so they're going to sit around the den. When the mother and father are away hunting, there would be always an uncle or an auntie hanging out, making sure that the pups stay safe. And then they increasingly bring food to them. They will play with them. They will take them out with them in short patrols. And it's in that way that the pups learn how to hunt and become proper wolves, as it were.
Now, with the habitat that they have, is that what is restricting the population of the wolf? There is only a small portion. What do you say? 500 wolves in the world. Are they restricted in where they can go, and so therefore the food chain is what is keeping the numbers low?
Very, very much so. So we have only a few hundred of them because there is only so much space available for them. But it was not always like this. So if we again take a zoom out and take a view of the continent as a whole, and it might be known by everyone, but parts of Africa used to be covered by glaciers during the late Pleistocene. So the areas where the wolves are found now, these Afro-Alpine highlands, were only 10, 20,000 years ago covered by glaciers. The tree line was a lot lower, about 1,000 meters lower than it is now. So these Afro-Alpine areas were more widespread. And it was at that time that the ancestor of the wolves came across from Eurasia, presumably through a land bridge, a Eurasian species of wolf walking to Africa, found these vast meadows teeming with life, and no other obvious carnivores to compete with. So they became very successful in this realm. Bring forward climate change, and not climate change as is a consequence of human endeavor, but natural climate change with the continent gradually warming up, the glaciers thawing, and the tree line going up. These vast Afro-Alpine meadows became smaller and smaller, and increasingly became isolated from each other. So we end up with a few islands of the habitat that was once abundant. And in this process, so we're talking about the last 10,000 years, the wolf populations got smaller and smaller. In more recent years, let's say the last 150 years, agriculture has also had an impact. Ethiopia is the cradle of humanity Our ancestors have lived there for the last, say, 5 million years. So that's a very tired landscape. And those many of those slopes have been cultivated for perhaps 15,000 years. So the land is tired, and there is pressure on the land with increasing human populations. So that's increasingly pushing the wolves higher up the slopes. So as a consequence of first natural warming of the continent, and more recently pressures for agricultural land, they find themselves trapped in their own success, actually, because they became very successful at living in these habitats, and now they have nowhere else to go.
Right. So the threat of the habitat reduction, the agricultural increase, them having to move further up the mountain. What solutions to the problems are available at the moment, or are being looked at the moment?
Yeah. Well, as you will know, wildlife finds itself in trouble across the earth because of pressures on the habitats, and there's fragmentation and loss of habitat, there is persecution, and so on. But in many cases, you find that people has come to terms or enter a contract, if you wish, with wildlife around them, and there is some form of coexistence. And clearly, coexistence is essential if Ethiopian wolves and other Ethiopian wildlife is going to persist. Ethiopians are very proud people, like most mountain dwellers, as you would imagine. And they really like the fact that these species are unique to their own country.
Sure.
So you can play, if you wish, with that sense of pride and find mechanisms by which people can tolerate wild animals in the first place, but be able to coexist with them and derive pride from doing so. So most of our work has been focused around that relationship. The main threat to the wolves, other than the ever shrinking habitats, comes with that coexistence with people. The mountain dwellers throughout the Ethiopian highlands rely on agriculture and growing livestock, and they come to the mountains with the flocks and herds, and with them come their dogs. And dogs unwittingly pose the greatest threat to the wolves, at least the most immediate and serious threat, in the form of disease. The dogs might chase the wolves, they might interact, and occasionally rabies or even canine distemper might get transmitted from the wolves, from the dogs to the wolves. And some of these infections can have dramatic impacts. As many as 3 of every 4 wolves might die on any of these outbreaks. So we have people that can coexist with wolves and with other wildlife, but the dogs unwittingly bring in another threat in the form of disease and competition. So most of the work we do is focusing in that interaction between wildlife and domestic animals. And we do that by protecting the dogs themselves through vaccination. And we achieve what we like to refer to as a One Health approach. By vaccinating the dogs, we're protecting the dogs, but we're also protecting their owners from a deadly disease such as rabies, and protecting wildlife. So there is a single approach that delivers benefits to all 3.
Yeah, so it's really a matter of assisting the farmers to coexist with the wolf and to eradicate anything that's going to impact upon the health of the wolf through the domestic animal as well, isn't it? Now, sorry, I was just going to say, what can people do to support the Ethiopian wolves and the Born Free Foundation, if they wanted to get involved in this?
Yes. Well, clearly, if you're ever gonna get to see an Ethiopian wolf in the flesh, you'll have to travel all the way to Ethiopia, and that's not an option for most
No.
people. I think a key element of improving this coexistence between wildlife and people is to gain a greater understanding of the dynamics of our relationships with animals, and we might be able to do that remotely. Of course, there are lots of things we can do with wildlife around us in Britain, and I think that should be the main focus of people that cares about animals.
Sure.
And our environment is to do something nearest to us. But it's also true that for affluent societies such as ours, there is a responsibility, if you wish, for biodiversity across the globe, and we should be able to help. And that's what Born Free Foundation does. Is a UK-based organization, but with programs across the world. And we are able to connect people with an interest in Britain and elsewhere with people living with wildlife and with needs to resolve that coexistence elsewhere. So understanding these dynamics and developing an empathy for wildlife is the most important thing. So I think if you're a supporter of the Born Free Foundation or a similar organization, and you can get your friends and family to be more understanding of the needs of wildlife, that will be a good thing. Of course, funding is essential. We cannot do the work we do in Ethiopia and elsewhere without the support of our public and members. So funding is an essential element. So if you can donate to the Born Free Foundation, by all means, please do so. Or if you can think of some form of fundraising that you could do to help the foundation, by all means, do so. But it is understanding and conveying your interests and love for animals to others that is the best way and the best thing we can do to protect wildlife.
Yeah, the more people who know about it, the better it is, isn't it? And it's not just as you say, not just in Ethiopia. It's you can do it in your own backyard as well. But yeah, it is just getting people to know about these things as well.
And at Born Free, we say keep wildlife in the wild. And it's a very simple concept, but very hard to achieve. So we don't think that the future of wildlife conservation lies in animals being kept behind bars or killing of any form. So I think getting that view across, that we can practice conservation in a compassionate way, in a way that takes care not just of the populations or the species, but each and every animal is essential. Just to give you an idea, about 2 months ago, one of our wolves in the Simen Mountains in northern Ethiopia was shot. We still don't know how that happened, but one of the park scouts found this animal and it was very unwell and dying, and our team was able to bring him in and nurse him back to health. So it took about 6 weeks of care for this animal to recover from what it was a shattered femur that looked really, really bad. And yet, 6 weeks later, this animal that was named Terefe, that means the lucky survivor in Amharic, was nursed back to health. And we were able to release him back to the wild, and thanks to a satellite collar that we fitted on him, we are able to follow his every moment. And
excellent.
3 weeks on, and he met back his family, and he's been roaming about and hunting and feeding, and seemingly fully recovered. And that's been the story of hope that reminds us of the value of our work. So every life matters. And every animal matters. So if we can protect wildlife while taking care of the needs of the people sharing the land with them and taking care of individual needs as well as the species needs, then there will be a future.
That's excellent, and it's nice to hear that he's made a full recovery and has gone back to the pack. Well, thank you very much for speaking to me today, and we will certainly let our listeners know how they can be in touch and learn more about the Born Free Foundation and the Ethiopian wolves.
So thank you for having us today, and thank you for supporting the Born Free Foundation.
If you would like to support the Ethiopian wolf and the efforts of Claudio and the Born Free Foundation, please visit the foundation at www.bornfree.org.uk.